Welcome to this short tutorial on the annual calendar, one of the components of the ISCA national model, so especially a component of the District of Distinction application. School counselors use the annual calendar template provided by ISCA to prioritize and communicate school counseling program priorities, whether in direct services, indirect services, or part of that program planning and school support. The annual calendar can increase visibility of the school counseling program and actually serve as an advocacy tool. It provides focus on events or activities delivered or coordinated by the school counselors. The school counseling program has an annual calendar that includes activities such as the school counseling classroom instruction throughout the year, events like back to school night or any part of an open house, parent meeting. We also have those other student, teacher, and even parent meeting days, whether for scheduling or any other literacy night. You can think of so many that we would invite stakeholders into the building. Those are events that you can include on the annual calendar, as well as activities that have to do with college and career events. That's really specific to what level you're at, whether elementary or secondary. Also, evening activities provided through the school and the community, cultural events, any college visit days. These would be mostly direct service ideas, but also think about the ways that we can provide insight to what we do throughout the school year as far as indirect services. Thinking about what would show up on our calendar monthly or ongoing as a part of our collaborative work with others, any work with stakeholders that we use as part of consultation or referral. The annual calendar is probably a shorter component than most, but it's very important, just like the others, to use the ISCA template provided and linked here. When you open this template, you will see a blank slate for the annual calendar. You will see it divided into direct student service activities, indirect student activities, and that program planning with school support for that final column. You'll see on this template that they are broken down by month of the school year, but also by ongoing services so that you don't have to put them in each month if there's something that happened throughout the school year. And that's for all three columns with direct, indirect, program planning, and school support. You will see an example here in just a little bit what that could look like for services you provide ongoing throughout the school year. The nice thing is about this template is once you fill it in for one school year, you really use it as a draft for every other year and just continue to update as you go. I have never had to recreate an annual calendar from scratch since the first time I completed it. In fact, I just go through kind of like the classroom and group mindset and behavior action plan and just add and take off what we are doing differently each year based on data-driven decisions, based on change of student and school need, and so forth. So it's really important that you fill it out really strongly and then be able to have that be a strong foundation from where you work off every school year. You will see next on the application the requirement that all of your activities from the classroom and group mindset and behavior action plan are also listed on the school counseling program events side of the annual calendar. So if you think about all of the items that you had on your classroom and group action plan, which is another component of not only the national model, but the District of Distinction application, you'll want to go back through and just make sure that each of these direct services, whether a classroom instruction, a large group, or a small group, are found on the annual calendar. Now, because a lot of these efforts that are on the action plan all have to do with direct services with students, most likely, I would think that they would all land in this first column of direct student services, where you are directly working with students, doing initiatives, events, classroom activities, large group activities, and beyond. You'll have to make sure if they show up in the ongoing, something that happens throughout the school year, or you would find them in the month that they happen. But you can see all of my dates here are listed in yellow. You do not have to list the exact dates. I have been in the practice of doing that because of ramp applications. So I do that. And again, these yellow highlights help me remember that I need to update these each school year as these events change. So if you need to refer to the short tutorial video on the classroom and group mindset and behavior action plan, please feel free to do that, remembering how we list the direct service efforts that we put towards all of our student groups, whether small, large, or whole grade level. You want to make sure that you list them by the primary mindset or behavior standard that really serve as the foundation of that intervention, activity, initiative, So you can see here just the first one. Mindset 1 is primarily the mindset that is the foundation of our girls leadership group. And you can also see that I put that it's an ongoing group. So if you went to the annual calendar, you would be able to find it over here in the ongoing services. And you would see that it's part of one of our student enrichment groups that are lead is just one of the many that happen ongoing throughout the school year. Now, you're not required to put the month that these initiatives or activities happen, but I like to do that so that it's easy to find on the annual calendar. The members that will serve as the panel that will score the District of Distinction applications, it will make it a lot easier for that group if you are able to list the month or months or ongoing that each of your activities land in so that they can go straight over to the annual calendar that you provide as a part of this section and be able to find those activities. I think that really helps, and it really just helps organize the information. And stakeholders who are looking at these two documents also don't have to cross-reference or spend a lot of time cross-referencing. So you can see here for this example of our life skills small group, it's a targeted identified group of students who need some supplemental intervention with self-management skills. You can see that we did that small group in December. So again, that panel that would be scoring this would be able to look over to December and find our small group of life skills. This student standard for Learning Strategy 1, Career Connections event and learning for our freshman class in November. So if I were to link over to my annual calendar, you will see here I've used some different colors. For this Career Connections Learning and Reflection event, you can see that that is listed here in November and didn't take long to find because I listed it here in November as well. Another component as far as the annual calendar goes is that you are classifying your calendar activities and initiatives with the ISCA national model in mind, that you are looking at the definitions of direct services, indirect services, program planning, and school support, and aligning those activities within each correct column. So if we head back here into the annual calendar template, it gives you a little bit of those descriptions here, but what I would really recommend is, if you haven't already, purchasing the ISCA national model, a framework for school counseling programs, the 4th edition. It's not a hard read, but really goes in to provide some great foundation and description to our national model and just our work as school counseling. So if you head to page 77, you will see that this is the section that really talks about that deliver component as a part of our model. And under deliver, that's where you will see our direct student services and our indirect student services, which are the first two columns of your annual calendar. So if we think about it, direct student services are those in-person interactions between school counselors and students. And through those direct services of instruction, appraisal, advisement, counseling, school counselors are helping students develop the knowledge, attitudes, and skills outlined in our ISCA mindset and behavior standards for student success. These are the standards, again, that we use for every student to improve with achievement, attendance, and discipline outcomes. Going over to the indirect student services column, remember, these are services provided on behalf of students as a result of the school counselor's interaction with others. So through indirect services of collaboration, consultation, and referrals, school counselors enhance student achievement and promote equity and access for all students. If you need more information about those individual services under direct, such as the difference with instruction or what appraisal and advisement would mean, please make sure that you are looking at our National Model Handbook. Those would be found on pages 78 through 80. If you think about that last column, program planning and school support, this is where those fair share responsibilities might come in, supervision tasks that rotate between staff that you're a part of. That's not necessarily the same as non-school counseling duties if it's fair share. We also think about program planning. That would be everything else that would fit between indirect and direct student services. Anytime you're doing a data dig or doing any sort of analyzing with data, if you're doing that collaboratively, that would be a part of indirect. But if you were doing that independently, or if you were planning a small group and working on content or building pre and post tests, all of that would be a part of the manage component, but really part of that program planning. You are doing those things to manage and to define your program. And so again, really utilize that handbook if you are needing more help. But if it's not direct or indirect, most likely it is program planning and management. The final thing you will see here for the reflection, here we just have one prompt, and it's very similar to what we saw up in the mission and vision section. We want you to give 2 examples of how the annual calendar is communicated to stakeholders. Maybe your annual calendar is shared similarly as the vision and mission are. Maybe they're shared on your counseling website. Maybe they're shared with your staff. Maybe they're part of a newsletter that gets shared out with your parents. Is it posted in your office? Think about where that annual calendar is shared. Is it shared similarly with your vision and mission? And if it's not currently shared or communicated to your stakeholders, what are 2 ways that you could see yourself implementing that work so that you can talk about how you communicate that to your stakeholders? If you need more intensive instruction on the annual calendar component, as well as the others, please check out the link to the left of the reflection with this extended webinar done by Dr. Sarah Kirk.